there, it's Asia, and for today's lesson, I've prepared my best tips on IELTS General Training Writing Task 1, which is a letter. I also have a sample answer for you and vocabulary with useful phrases to download. Without further ado, let's get started. And my first tip is choose the correct style. That is something that is extremely important in general writing task 1. And that's because you may need to write an informal, a semi-formal, or a formal letter. And your examiner will check if the style is appropriate and if it's consistent, if you have the same style throughout your letter from the first line until the last line. In short, informal letters are those you write to your friends or relatives. Formal letters are those you write to businesses or in other very formal occasions. And semi-formal letters are just in between. In my courses, I give a 2-question technique that allows to definitely determine the type of the letter, but in short, this overview works in most situations. Okay, so the style should be consistent. Let's talk about how you open and close your letters, your greetings and your sign-offs. Again, there are different options to choose from, but here are some for each type of letter. So, in informal letters, you know the person very well, so address them by their first name, Dear Kate, comma. And then sign off your letter using something warm and personal, for example, best wishes, comma, Asia, using my first name. For semi-formal letters, you may either use the first name or the surname, depending on how well you know that person. Generally, in English, we address quite a lot of people by their first name. For example, if you write to your landlord, you may actually use their first name if you've met them personally. So, Dear Kate or Dear Ms. Brown. And you sign off more formally. Best regards works perfectly either with your first name or with your full name. I would say that if you address the person by their surname, then definitely sign with your full name as well. Your first name goes first and then your surname. And in formal letters, quite often you don't know the name of the person. That's not always the case, but that is often the case. And in this case, open your letter by saying, Dear Sir or Madam. Capitalize both, Sir or Madam, comma. Some people just write Dear Sir or Dear Sirs, but today we're trying to be inclusive and include everyone, and that's why I think it's better to include men and women, Sir or Madam. And if you don't know the name of the person, then you sign off by saying yours faithfully and then your full name. And memorize how to spell this word, faithfully. It's quite long, but you will probably need it. The type of the letter you are writing should determine your choice of vocabulary and even grammar, because some grammatical structures are informal and some are formal, and you shouldn't use them in the wrong type of letter because that will be a mistake. But I understand that while you're still learning English, you may not always feel what is formal and what is informal. So, I've prepared for you a number of phrases in each pair. One is formal and one is informal. Guess which is which, and then I will tell you why. Okay, the first pair. I would like to request information about the photo exhibition. Or, what was the name of the exhibition you mentioned? So which one is formal? Number 1. Why? Oh, I would like to is quite formal. It may be used in informal letters occasionally, but it's definitely not informal. But to request, the verb to request is very formal. You don't send a request to a friend. You ask a friend. You wonder if a friend could do something. And the second one is, what was the name of the exhibition? So this is a direct question. Direct questions are usually not necessarily informal, but they're not formal. So in formal letters, we try to put our requests in a more indirect and polite way. If you just ask directly, it sounds a bit more informal. And the verb to mention is informal. What did you mention? That's something you say to your friend. Next. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the event. Or, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to make it to the party. Which one is formal? Again, number one. Unfortunately is more semi-formal or formal. When we are apologizing to a friend, we say, I'm sorry, I can't come. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend. To attend is a formal verb. To make it is an informal phrasal verb. Quite a lot of phrasal verbs are actually informal in English. Next. I'll give you a call as soon as I know more. You will be contacted as soon as the decision is reached. Which one is formal? Number two, of course. Why? Well, because it uses the passive voice twice. You will be contacted. The decision is reached. Can you hear how it distances you from this sentence? You will be contacted, not I'll call you. You'll be contacted. That's very formal. So use more passive voice in formal letters and use active voice in informal letters. If you say something like you will be contacted to your friend, that will be an incorrect, inappropriate style. And again, I'll give you a call. So this I'll is a contracted form. I will. Use contractions in informal letters and don't use them. I'm writing is quite a formal phrase, so we use it in semi-formal or formal letters. We don't use it to open an informal letter. To inquire is formal. To wonder is informal. I wonder. And one more. I am thrilled about this exhibition. I would be delighted to take part in this forthcoming exhibition. Which one is formal? Number two. To be thrilled. This is such an emotional verb. Emotional verbs and adjectives are informal. To be delighted is quite neutral. You could use it in informal letters and you could use it in formal letters too. But the adjective forthcoming, a forthcoming exhibition is definitely formal. The next step is to present a clear purpose. There is one reason why you're writing this letter. This reason is given to you in the task, and it should be clear in your letter from the very first lines and then throughout the letter. You should only write things which help you achieve this goal and not anything else. Let me show you an example. The topic is, you're going abroad on holiday and your friend will stay in your home while you're away. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, explain where you hide the keys. Describe what your friend needs to do in your absence. Say when you're coming back. You need to write at least 150 words. Don't write any addresses. Begin your letter as follows. Dear, and here is the beginning of my letter. Dear Anna, I'm writing to a friend, so I use the first name and I put a comma. Thank you again for agreeing to be my house sitter. So this very short sentence already gives the purpose. A house sitter is like a babysitter, someone who stays with your house to take care of it while you're away. And now I expand a little bit. I am so excited about my holiday in California and really appreciated that you are making it stress-free by staying at my place in the meantime. Okay, this is the first paragraph of my letter. Let's move on. Cover every point equally. In your task, you're given 3 bullet points, and you must cover each of those bullet points in your letter. And you should cover them equally. This means that you should write several sentences about each point. I know that sometimes one of the points may seem very brief. For example, say when you're coming back. And you could say, I'm coming back on the 5th of June at 6 p.m. This is one sentence. This is definitely not enough. You have to invent something to provide details, to write several sentences. Now, let me show you the second paragraph of my letter. Think if there are any problems with it. Here it is. On our trip, we are planning to visit Los Angeles and San Francisco and spend several days in the national parks. I've heard so much about this state and can't wait to finally see it all myself. Any problems? Well, have a look at the task again. We have 3 bullet points. Explain where you hide the keys, what your friends need to do, when you're coming back. So what I'm gonna do on my holiday is completely irrelevant. The whole paragraph is irrelevant. And you should avoid irrelevant detail in your answer because otherwise you will lose points for that. Another thing to remember is that you need to divide your letter into paragraphs. Don't write just one long letter like we do in personal life sometimes. You must have between 3 and 5 paragraphs depending on the structure you choose. Try to organize your letter logically. When you're writing about a certain thing, put it all into one paragraph. When you're moving on to the next thing, start the next paragraph. In English, we typically don't indent, we don't leave this empty space in the beginning of the first line. We just leave one empty line between paragraphs, and that's it. So in task 2, I often say that you should avoid single sentence paragraphs. You should write several sentences in each of them. But don't worry about that in your letter. If the opening paragraph or the closing paragraph contains only one sentence, for example, if you have any questions, do let me know. That's not a problem. Another thing that can help you write your letter is learning common phrases for informal, semi-formal and formal letters. Actually, in my course, I made a long PDF list with all those phrases for different situations, invitations, complaints, and so on. But I actually have a free PDF list with phrases for formal letters, which you can download. I will link it in the description. I'll remind you at the end of this lesson as well. So in this PDF, you can find phrases like this. I am writing to inquire, apply, inform, confirm, ask. I would appreciate it if you could. I find it most unsatisfactory that. Should you require any further information, please let me know. So if you learn them, you can use them in your letter, but they also show you what kind of style you should use in formal writing. Small things are important too. For example, your letter must be longer than 150 words. Otherwise, you will be penalized and lose quite a lot of marks, actually. If you take a computer-based exam, words will be counted on the screen, and then it's easy. But if you take a paper-based exam, then you don't have time to count words during the exam. That's why you should print out the official answer sheet and use it for your practice letters at home. Count words, and soon you will know how long your answer needs to be to hit that minimum word count. I've heard that examiners don't really count words unless they see that the letter is obviously too short. And if you're wondering what is counted as a word, each article and each preposition is a word. And make sure that you don't spend more than 20 minutes on your task 1 letter. That's because your task 1 weighs 33% or 1/3 of your writing score. And 2/3 are determined by your task 2 essay, which means it's twice more important. And it's very important to leave enough time to write a good essay. Actually, if you prefer, you can start with the essay, write it first, and then write your letter. It's entirely up to you in which order you do. But in any case, you should finish both tasks and then proofread them in the remaining time. Understand the requirements. That's something that is so important in IELTS writing, both task 1 and 2. That's because examiners get a set of criteria that you must fulfill to get a certain score. And to get band 7, for example, you must meet each requirement for a band 7 score. Not more requirements than band 6, no, each of them. Because if you don't meet one of the requirements, then your score for that criterion will fall down to band 6, for example, and your total score will fall down too. And in order to still get band 7, you need to get band 8 for another criterion, which is much more challenging. That's why you should learn about all the requirements, how to meet them, and do your best to meet them in your task. All the requirements are listed in IELTS band descriptors, which I will link in the description. My next tip is study good quality examples. In order to write good letters, you first need to read good letters to understand what letters are actually good and which are not good. I have a video with a model answer, which I will link in just a second. But actually, if you have one of the Cambridge practice books, so that's number 16, then at the end you can find sample answers from students with scores and comments from the examiner. So what you can do is you can read it and think what is wrong, try to find the problems, and then read the comments from the examiner and see if you actually understand what's required. That's so important. I did that a lot. And actually, if you want to prepare for your exam and learn how to meet each band 7 plus requirement in writing task 1, 2 and IELTS speaking and prepare in less time with less stress and achieve a high score, please check out my courses. I will link them in the description. So the video with the sample letter is on the screen, and you can also download the PDF guide with phrases for formal letters right now. Thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!